Ever since Russia invaded Ukraine, there's been a concern that the war may spread further, perhaps to Moldova. It borders Ukraine, it has a population of 3.5 million. And just like inside Ukraine, in Moldova, Russia supports separatists who control a breakaway region. It's called Transnistria, and Russia has around 1,500 troops who are there. And the situation in Moldova is under ever-increasing scrutiny. In early May, The Times quoted a Ukrainian military source saying, "We believe the Kremlin has already taken the decision to attack Moldova." Russia would deny any such plan. Moldova itself responded saying there are no indications that it's in danger. That may be, but in April, a senior Russian general told state media that Moscow seeks full control over Donbass and southern Ukraine. He went on, control over the south of Ukraine is another passage to the Transnistria region. That passage would mean connecting Russia to a part of Moldova. And this is what the US makes of that.
A Russian general out there claiming that Moldova's next is clearly irresponsible rhetoric.
And these growing tensions aren't just about words. At the end of April, there was a series of explosions in Transnistria. Separatists say radio masts like this one were destroyed. Nobody claimed responsibility, but the Institute for the Study of War concluded that Russian forces likely conducted a false flag attack in Transnistria to amplify Russian claims of anti-Russian sentiment in Moldova. Needless to say, Russia saw it differently.
We are alarmed by the escalating tensions in Transnistria. We see those actions as terrorism, aimed to destabilise the situation in the region.
Now, there are circumstances in which destabilisation could help either Russia or Ukraine. And the president of Moldova is clear. Destabilisation is the goal.
We condemn any provocation and attempts to lure Moldova into actions that can endanger the peace in our country.
That peace roots back to the early 90s. Just like Ukraine, Moldova became independent in 1991 after the collapse of the Soviet Union. The next year, after a brief war with Transnistrian separatists, a ceasefire was agreed. For 30 years, it's held. But the issue is not resolved.
Transnistria, where these explosions took place, is one of the frozen conflicts of the post-Soviet zone. With a frozen conflict, there's always the potential that things get hot again.
And the war in Ukraine could cause the temperature to rise. Transnistria is 100 kilometres from the crucial Black Sea port of Odessa. Russia has already attacked it. Transnistria could offer another way to attack, though the military practicalities of this look difficult for the Russians. Nonetheless, the West is paying close attention.
We must ensure that alongside Ukraine, the Western Balkans and countries like Moldova and Georgia have the resilience and the capabilities to maintain their sovereignty and freedom.
To Russia's foreign minister, this is yet more evidence that the Moldovans are being dragged into NATO. He adds, "I don't think that would amplify Moldova's security." Now, there's no prospect of Moldova joining NATO, but Moldova is looking west.
Both the president and prime minister are really Western-oriented and democratically minded. It hasn't always been thus. The Moldovan politicians have often leaned heavily on the side of Moscow, and having this new team in place, pushing quickly westward, I think has really discomfited Moscow quite a bit.
And Russia's rhetoric on Moldova has echoes of its rhetoric on Ukraine. The same Russian general we quoted earlier talks of the oppression of the Russian-speaking population in Transnistria without offering credible evidence. But according to Louise Cahalan of the Sunday Times, people in Transnistria are worried. She's tweeted that this is the line that's being pushed in the pro-Russian local media. Scary ultra-nationalist Ukrainians, armed by the US, will pour over the border. There's no evidence an attack is planned, but the similarities of Russia's claims for Ukraine and Moldova are being noted.
This is extremely alarming because it is the same exact pattern as what was happening in the weeks leading up to Russia's, brutal assault on Ukraine.
And so we wait. As the BBC's Mark Urban puts it, either Russia or Ukraine may choose to begin hostilities there. For Russia, that's politically logical but militarily problematic, while for Ukraine, the reverse is true, which is why for now we have a stalemate, Mark says. And while that stalemate may continue, there remains, at the very least, a risk that the war in Ukraine could extend beyond its borders.